حضرتنا بالفاتحة. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه يوم الدين. نود تعلم التعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله سنة الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء للهدى والدعاء للخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه ثواب اسمه تعالى. We begin by praising Allah Ta'ala and starting in His name. All praise is His, and we ask Him for His peace and blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his family and companions and everyone else who follows in his footsteps. May Allah make us amongst them. Ameen. So we're resuming as well today the second session of a series of lessons about Ramadan and fasting. Yesterday we covered some of the outward aspects of fasting. For example, we covered who has to fast on Ramadan. We said every Muslim who is an adult, meaning they've reached puberty and is of sound mind, must fast. Every Muslim who is an adult and of sound mind must fast. And every Muslim, and there are some people who they aren't able to fast, for example, right? We said, for example, every Muslim, for example, who might reach an age where they can no longer fast, they're very elderly, or they have some sort of chronic illness where they're unable to fast. Fasting would either make them more ill or lead them to have some sort of great difficulty in their life. These kinds of people, after consulting with them, with the practicing Muslim doctor, these kinds of people, they don't have to fast, but instead they have to pay what's called a fidya, pay an amount of food that they give to a poor person for every day of Ramadan they don't fast. And we said that amount of food is what? It's about half a liter of rice, essentially. Pay rice. You pay the staple food of your land. In the States, just pay rice. Buy some rice. Don't cook it. Don't give someone a cooked rice. Give them, dry rice you get from a store. Half a liter for every single day. That this kind of person doesn't end up fasting. The third kind of person is someone who is not allowed to fast. And we said that is someone like a menstruating woman, for example. A woman who's menstruating or she has postnatal bleeding after giving birth, for example, she's actually not allowed to fast. But she makes up these missed days later on after Ramadan is over. And the last category is an individual who has is given a choice of whether to fast or not. And that's like someone traveling, right? We said someone who's going on a trip, they have a choice now. They can fast or they cannot fast. And their choice comes down to meeting several conditions. The first condition is that they leave their city limits before Fajr. For example, they're planning a trip. They're going to like Texas from Michigan, and they leave, like now at 7 p.m. So they say, "Khalas, I'm going to leave from Michigan to Texas at 7 p.m. today. I'm not going to fast today." Doesn't count. So you have to fast if you're leaving after Fajr. If, for example, during your trip you experience hardship and you just have to eat or drink, then you can break your fast and make up the day. But so long as you're leaving after Fajr, you must start the day fasting. So the first condition is you leave your city limits before Fajr. The second condition is that the place you're going to is actually far away. It's far enough away where you're considered a traveler, which is about 50 miles for us. So someone says, I'm going to go to Hamtramck today, okay? And they leave before Fajr. It's not far enough to be considered a traveler. Hamtramck's right there, it's right down the street. So you have to fast that day, okay? Now, of course, if someone is taking a long trip, but where they're going to isn't actually, they're not considered a traveler there. It's actually considered a home, or they plan on spending a long period of time there. Once they get there, they have to fast as well. So, for example, someone might be visiting Michigan and their permanent residence is, like Pennsylvania, okay? They want to go back home to Pennsylvania. It's far enough away. It's over 50 miles. They leave Michigan, for example, before Fajr. On the drive there, they're not fasting. Once they get there, they're home, right? So they have to start fasting again. Is that clear to everyone?
Does it finish? So if they started not fasting and then just repeated the day not fasting when they get there, like if they get halfway through.
Yeah. So for example, like, okay, this person going to Pennsylvania, right? They hop on a flight and they get there, they leave before Fajr, but they get there, for example, at noontime. They get there, they didn't start the day fasting, right? But everyone else, they get there, their family members are fasting and everyone. This kind of person, they can, they don't have to, they can eat and drink still. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What defines home? How long do you have to stay in that area for you to be able to fast?
Okay, so if you're staying there for more than 4 days, not including the day you enter and the day you left, the day you will leave, you have to fast. So for example, like I came to Michigan, I'm visiting Michigan, I'm intending to stay for 10 days, right? 10 days, including my day of coming and going. So without that, it's, It's 8 days, right? So I have to fast here. I came to Michigan, not including the day I came and the day I'm going to leave. I'm here for 8 days total. I got to fast. If someone comes to Michigan, they're visiting from abroad, from Pennsylvania, Maine, whatever, and they're here for 2 days, for example, right? They have the option of not fasting while they're here. Okay? They have the option of not fasting while they're here. Yeah?
If you're visiting, but like if I were to visit for 2 days in Michigan, but I was traveling before, I'm a traveler, like
But your home is here.
my home is
Yeah, so long as your home is here. So his question is this, like he's saying essentially, his question is, he was traveling abroad and then he's going to come back home to Michigan just for 2 days and then leave again. So long as Michigan is home, for those 2 days you have to fast. You can't be called a traveler while you're at home, Your house is here. Your home is here. Your family is here. Your wealth is here. This is home. So even if you're just here for 2 days, you have to fast those 2 days. Okay? There were several questions yesterday about women who are, for example, pregnant or nursing. So we said that a woman who is pregnant or nursing, if she, after consulting a righteous Muslim doctor who is actually practicing, sees that fasting is going to be harmful for her health, then she doesn't have to fast. But she has to make up the days later after Ramadan. If she sees, after speaking to a doctor, that fasting would be harmful for the baby and not herself, then she cannot fast, make up the days after Ramadan, and she also pays the fidya, pays the food to a poor person every day she missed, right? Half a liter of rice, for example, to a poor person. If she sees that, after speaking to a doctor, that it'd be harmful to herself and the baby, she just makes up days. She doesn't have to pay any food. Okay? Those are the 3 scenarios. And someone asked, what happens if a woman, for example, throughout her life, she had several pregnancies, bore several children, and she never made up the days? So in the Shafi'i madhab, what she would have to do is she has to make up the days. And if she didn't fast because it was harmful to the baby's health, she'd have to pay the fidya, pay the food to a poor person. And she would also have to pay an extra handful of food for every day she delayed making up. So for example, if she, for example, let's say she didn't fast 10 days in 2020, okay, 3 years ago. In Ramadan of 2020, for 10 days, she didn't fast because of her pregnancy, for the health of her child, okay? She has to make up 10 days. She must also pay 10 handfuls or 5 liters total of a food to a poor person, right? Everyone follow? Okay. She didn't make up those days until after this Ramadan. So she delayed them 3 years. She has to pay an extra handful every single year she delayed it. Okay? So 10 days times 3 is what? 30. So 30 handfuls or 15 liters of food as well to someone. That's in the Shafi madhab. However, there are many scholars like Imam Abu Hanifa who says that all she has to do is make up the days. She doesn't have to pay anything. Okay? So, a woman in this kind of situation can look at herself. If she has the money, she can pay the food to a poor person. If she doesn't have the money, she can take that opinion and not pay anything, but she has to make up the days. She has to make up the days. If she forgot, just try your best, estimate what you have to make up, and just make it up as time goes on. Okay? Right. There's also a question someone asked from last class. Go ahead.
if you ain't got the money
Yeah.
cover up the days he has fast? How would they even?
Sorry?
How would they even scrape up anything? If you don't have nothing.
You mean the case of the woman that we just talked about? So she would take the opinion of some of the scholars that she just got to make up the days and that's it, and she's good. So she doesn't have the money, for example, to pay for the food to give to poor people. She can just make up the days, and that's it. She's good.
When it actually happened, or when she actually had money for it. Like,
According to that specific scholar, Abu Hanifa, she doesn't have to pay anything. Yeah. So she makes up the days, and she doesn't have to pay anything. So he was asking, what happens if, for example, like she had the money at one point in time and she doesn't have it now, or something like that? According to Imam Abu Hanifa, she doesn't pay anything. She just makes up the days. If she broke her fast because of pregnancy or nursing or anything like that, she just makes up the days. Okay, she doesn't pay anything, which is a really important thing to consider. And a lot of times when we consult doctors, make sure the doctor we're consulting, first of all, is Muslim and they're practicing, and they're not someone who just tell you, yeah, don't fast, it's bad for your health. And the doctor is looking out for your health, but a lot of times you can discuss with them your options and tell them, look, I feel healthy, I feel fine. And you can see what your options are. And a lot of times people will fast and they'll realize they're okay, actually. So just try your best and realize that even if you don't fast, you got to make up the days later on.
Would the same apply to like people who delay making up their fast for any other reason?
Yeah.
If they were sick or
Yeah.
like that?
If anyone, his question was, does the same thing apply, having to pay that handful of food for delaying your fast, delaying making up your fast? Does it apply to every other circumstance as well? It does. In Shafi'i madhab, it does. So, for example, someone, for example, let's say last year during Ramadan, they chose not to fast 5 days because like they were just really ill. Okay, they have to make up those 5 days, right? They haven't made them up yet. Now this Ramadan has entered. Okay, now because they didn't make up those fasts until after this Ramadan, they have to pay a handful of food or half a liter for every day they missed. Yeah, but again, other scholars like Imam Abu Hanifa, he doesn't hold that opinion. They don't have to pay anything. Okay. Someone asked online as well, yes, last class, what if someone is leaving after Fajr on a flight, but the flight is really long? So they said, for example, they leave at 10 a.m. or so, but it's a 13-hour flight. Do you have to fast or not? So this kind of person in this situation, they have to fast because they're leaving after Fajr, but you just break your fast whenever Maghrib hits when you're on the plane. So when you're on the plane and Maghrib comes in or sunset happens, and you can just look outside and see if it gets dark, you can break your fast. Or there are apps now that calculate what time Maghrib hits for someone who's in the middle of flight. Likewise, what such a person can do, like if they start fasting and they see, they can't do it anymore, they can't complete the fast, they have to eat or drink something, they can break their fast and make up the day later on. Okay? Yeah.
If that plane is crossing the time zones, where would one break their fast?
Whenever Maghrib hits.
Okay, at the particular location.
Wherever. So he asked, if you're crossing time zones, when do you actually break your fast? Wherever you are, when Maghrib happens is when you break your fast. So if you're in the middle of the plane, when Maghrib happens, when sunset happens, you break your fast then. If it happens after you land, you do it after you land. Yeah? Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so we said that to have a valid fast, you must make an intention, right? You must intend the night before. I intend to fast tomorrow for the month of Ramadan, for example. And just like how we do it every night here at Al-Rahma, after Maghrib and after Taraweeh. And you also have to make sure nothing enters your body cavity. And your body cavity, we said, is your head and your abdomen. So you can't eat anything, you can't drink anything during that time period. If someone is in a circumstance where they eat accidentally, you eat something accidentally, okay? Then you're good. Your fast isn't broken, okay? If you eat something accidentally, you genuinely forget you're fasting and you eat something, okay, it happens. It's rare in Ramadan because, you're usually in an environment where everyone's fasting. But if someone actually genuinely forgets and they eat something, then it's fine. There's a narration that the person who forgets that they're fasting, they eat something, Allah has been hospitable to them. They were a guest of God. It was a gift from Allah. You got to eat something while you're fasting, and you still have reward, and your fast is okay. If someone eats on purpose, if they eat on purpose while they're fasting. They just chose to eat something for whatever reason. Okay? That's haram, that's sinful. Your fast is invalid. You have to not eat the rest of the day as well, and you got to make up the day. So he eats once, he breaks his fast, okay? He's got to make up that day now. But he's just persistent. He has another meal, and another meal, and another meal. Every time he eats now, he's getting sin. Because once you break your fast once on purpose for no valid reason, you have to refrain from eating the rest of the day as sort of like a consequence of the punishment for breaking your fast without valid reason. So if you break your fast without a valid reason, you have to make up that day and stop eating, and you still can't eat the rest of that day. Okay? Valid reasons that can allow you to break your fast are things like undue hardship, like someone, for example, they just like it's really hot, for example, and they're really thirsty, and they just they get to a point where they just have to drink something. Okay? You can drink water, you can break your fast, it's okay, just make up the day. You're not receiving sin. Okay? Likewise, someone, for example, they have to eat something, you can break your fast and you just make up the day. Or someone has to take some medicine, like we mentioned last class, someone who has asthma, for example. Okay? You just have to take your inhaler, take it, just make up the day later on. Okay? The only problem is that if you break your fast with no excuse, no valid reason, and ultimately it's between you and God. No one's gonna know how bad your situation is. It's between you and Allah Ta'ala. So really, everyone has to ask themselves, like, if someone's trying to be clever or slick or something, it's between you and God. Okay? He knows what's actually going on. So everyone just be honest and be genuine with themselves. If they really have to break their fast, they can do so and make up the day. But otherwise, with hardship comes reward. With hardship comes reward. Okay? طيب. The next point is someone who is that we mentioned as well last class that you cannot be intimate with anyone while you're fasting. When we talk about intimacy, we're talking about the actual action. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? The action, like the marital action, that is not allowed while you're fasting. If someone does that, it breaks their fast. It doesn't matter if it's with their wife or not their wife or any gender or even non-human. If someone does that action with anything, okay, their fast is broken. Okay, their fast is broken. And not only is it broken, there's a huge consequence. You got to make up that day. That's number one. Okay, you got to make up that day. Secondly, you have to fast, as well as fasting that day you missed, you must also fast 2 consecutive months. So 60 days. Why? Because you did something really serious. Like, who told you to do that? Who told you to do that? So if someone does that, someone is intimate during the month of Ramadan, whether it's, again, their spouse or not their spouse, whether it's with even just an animal, and Allah protect us, that's a really big sin, but whatever they might do intimately with another being, okay, the consequence of that action is that one, first you must make up the rest of that fast after Ramadan, and you have to fast 2 consecutive months. 2 consecutive months. Okay? Now, obviously, and they must also refrain from eating and drinking the rest of that day as well. Just like the person who broke their fast without reason. So you have to make up that day the fast you ruined. You got to not eat and drink the rest of that day, and you must fast 2 consecutive months after Ramadan. Yeah? Does that make sense? Okay. Again, this is for someone that does it consciously. Okay? If someone does it by accident, then khalas, like that's an accident. It doesn't ruin your fast. But someone does it consciously, intentionally, then this is the consequence. You must make up the day and you must fast 2 consecutive months. Everything I just mentioned is for a male. Everything I just mentioned is for a male. A woman who does so, all she has to do is just make up that day. Okay? So for example, a man is with his wife during the daytime of Ramadan. His fast is gone. He ruined his fast. Her fast is also gone. Okay? He has to make up the day. He has to make up the day, not eat and drink the rest of that day, and then fast 2 months extra. All she has to do is not eat and drink the rest of that day and make up that day. Okay? So this is the ruling for someone who is intimate during the month of Ramadan. Okay. Something else that breaks your fast is masturbation. Masturbation also breaks your fast. If someone does that, It's haram, obviously, but if they do it, it breaks their fast. It breaks their fast. Okay, regardless of whether it's a man or a woman doing it, it breaks their fast, and they must make up that day. All right, everything clear so far? Fadda.
From having to make up 2 months, is that for fast when done during Ramadan, or is it like even like natural fast?
So he asked if someone is intimate while they're fasting, and they broke their fast being intimate, and the fasting of 2 months afterwards, is that specific to fast of Ramadan or not? It's specific to Ramadan. So someone fasts, for example, outside Ramadan, just any other day, okay, and they're intimate with their spouse, they don't have to do that. They don't have to make up 2 months, okay? Yeah, go ahead.
What about violence?
Sorry?
What about violence?
Violence, like someone is violent to someone else while they're fasting. This will come up, inshallah, in the next component of the class. He asked, what if someone is violent towards someone else while they're fasting? Their fast isn't broken. Their fast is valid. Okay? They check the box, but the reward for their fast is gone. Yeah. The reward. Obviously, this is if someone's violent without due cause. If someone's, violent for a reason, like self-defense or something, okay? They're being attacked by someone, they're just protecting themselves and their family, that's fine. But if someone decides to consciously go and, oppress people, hit them or something, that would spoil the reward of their fast, but they don't have to make it up. Okay? Tfadal.
Just to clarify, the 60-day fast is only for the male when it's physical intimate relationship with other people.
Yeah, so he asked for clarification, and he's correct when he said that the 2 extra months of fasting, the 2 consecutive months of fasting, are only for a male who breaks his fast in the daytime of Ramadan, being physically intimate with someone else. Yeah, that's correct.
When you say by accident, does that mean both like if they forget that they're fasting, or if they were to just like accidentally swallow something while they're fasting?
So accidentally means that they forget their fasting. Okay, it can also mean like so he asked, like, if someone swallows something accidentally, it depends on what it is. Okay, like if someone's walking down the street in Michigan, like today it's raining, and water gets in their mouth and they swallow it accidentally, that's excused. Okay, you didn't consciously drink water. Okay, or for example, someone is making a cake with flour, and sometimes it gets in the air and they swallow accidentally, that's all excused. Okay, but someone, for example, they decide to like rinse out their mouth, brushing their teeth or something while they're fasting, and something goes back, okay, that would break their fast. Okay, all right, okay, tamam. So we finished talking about the essentials you need to know, essentials we need to know for a sound fast. Now there are certain things that we can do to get extra reward that are sunnah for us to perform while we're fasting. The first of which is to have suhoor, to have like a meal before fajr. Okay, so for example, tonight we're going to break our fast, and then in the morning before fajr we can wake up and have a meal. It's called suhoor. The time for suhoor starts after the halfway point of the night. So in Michigan now, for example, let's say Maghrib comes in at 8, just to make the math easy, okay? And Fajr comes in at what time? 6 what?
6 o'clock for like that.
Okay, we'll say 6, just to make the math easy. So 8 to 6, okay? What's the halfway point there? Huh? That is 1:30, right? So at 1:30, any meal you have after 1:30, you can call it suhoor, and you actually get rewarded for having that meal because it's sunnah. Okay? You actually get rewarded for having that meal because it's sunnah. So you have it anytime between 1:30, and it's sunnah to stop eating, maybe let's say 20 minutes before the Fajr Adhan. Okay? And that's just out of precaution. The Prophet ﷺ, the companions, they used to say they stopped eating suhoor before Fajr by about the amount of time required to recite 50 verses of Quran, which is about, we'll say 20 minutes, 25 minutes maybe, just to be safe. Okay? So the amount of time you need to recite 50 verses of Quran, that's what you should stop eating suhoor. If, for example, you still eat suhoor after that time, it's okay. Your fast is okay. But it's just sunnah to stop eating before that. So what should you eat? Yeah? you have to stop eating before the dawn prayer comes in. But it's best to stop eating about 20 minutes before that. Okay? About 20 minutes before that. All right? Okay. So what should you eat for suhoor? You can eat whatever you like as long as it's halal. All right? But it's sunnah to have dates. Okay? At least a single date. 3 is better. Okay? If you don't have dates, it's also sunnah to have something, to have water and to have something sweet like fruit, an apple or something. Okay? So the best thing to have is dates. You don't have dates, you can have water. Okay? If you don't have water even, you can have, something sweet like fruit. Okay? But otherwise you can have whatever you like. Some people have burgers, some people have like curries, some people just have cereal. You can have whatever you like, just make sure it's halal. Just make sure it's halal. All right? Yeah. In where we study in Yemen, people have like rice, like a heavy meal, like a proper meal, rice, fish, whatever it is, and it takes them getting used to waking up that early and just having a meal like that. So, tamam, that's suhoor, okay? That's suhoor. It's sunnah to have suhoor, and it's also sunnah to, it's also wajib actually to break your fast when maghrib comes in, but it's sunnah to hasten to do that. Okay, it's sunnah to hasten to do that. So, for example, maghrib comes in at 8, for example. Okay, it's sunnah to break your fast as soon as you're sure maghrib has come in. Okay, as soon as you're sure maghrib has come in, it's sunnah to break your fast. Meaning, someone decides, okay, maghrib comes in at 8, but they want to break their fast at 9. You can do that, nothing wrong with that, but it's sunnah to break your fast as soon as you're sure. He says, ما زال أمتي بخير جيل الفطور وأخر السحور. يعني he says the ummah is still in good, or still in a good state, so long as they hasten their iftar, their breaking of their fast, and they delay their suhoor. So the more you bring your iftar closer, you hasten to have it, it's better. And the more you delay your suhoor, it's also better. But again, don't bring your iftar up so close that you have it before maghrib comes in. That will spoil your fast. You have to make up that day. Okay? So once you're sure maghrib has come in, then you can have your iftar. And when you delay your suhoor, don't delay it too much where you're eating and the adans of fajr is going off, because that will also spoil your fast. You have to make up the day. It doesn't count. Stop your suhoor enough before the adhan where you're sure you won't be eating anything. There's a misconception some people have. It comes from an incorrect interpretation of a hadith. But the Prophet says that, he says in a hadith, if you hear the adhan of fajr, okay, and you have something in your mouth, you can still eat it. People think that means that, okay, if you're eating suhoor and you hear the fajr adhan go off, finish with your meal. That's not what it means. When the Prophet ﷺ was alive, they used to have 2 adhans for fajr. The first adhan was given by Sayyidina Bilal alayhi salam. He was an Ethiopian companion of the Prophet ﷺ. He used to give the first adhan. When did he used to give it? He used to give it at the time when it's sunnah to stop eating suhoor, which is like 20 to 30 minutes before the actual fajr time or dawn comes in. Okay? So he's referring to that adhan. And when you hear that adhan, because it's not fajr time yet, yeah, finish your meal, it's okay. All right? But the second adhan used to happen with a companion named Abdullah bin Maktoum. Now, he was blind. He was a blind companion who used to give the adhan for fajr. Like when the prayer time comes in, he would give the adhan. His adhan, obviously, is not what the Prophet was referring to. He's referring to Sayyidina Bilal's adhan. If you hear his adhan, which happens 30 minutes or 20 minutes before the actual fajr time, finish your meal, it's no problem. But when the actual fajr adhan comes in, stop eating. Have something in your mouth, take it out, or else it'll spoil your fast. That day won't count, you have to make it up. Okay? The companion, Sayyidina Abdullah bin Maktoum, he was blind, he used to give the adhan of fajr. Now let me ask you this, how did he know fajr came in or not? Huh? Maybe. Someone used to tell him maybe. They also say he used to smell the fajr come in. He used to smell the fajr when it came in. And it comes from the ayah of Allah Ta'ala where he says in the Quran, وَالصُّبْحِ إِذَا تَنَفَّسَ. The dawn when it breathes. So he would smell like the breath of the dawn and he would give adhan because of that. He was blind, but mashallah, he had a really high rank with Allah Ta'ala. So now we know some of the sunan of fasting, to delay your suhoor, what to eat for suhoor, and to have iftar as soon as you can, and to not delay it. Like, what should you eat when you break your fast? You can have whatever you want, it's as long as it's halal. But the sunnah is to break your fast on dates, at least one day. 3 is better, okay? So you can have at least one. That gives you the reward of breaking a fast. The Prophet ﷺ used to break his fast, the date. If you have 3, that's more reward. So you either have 1 or 3 or any odd number: 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25, 27. Okay? Have as many as you like. And you can eat whatever you like for iftar, but the sunnah is to break your fast on dates. If you don't have dates, water is the next best thing to have. If you don't have water, anything sweet, like fruit. Fruit is good. Raisins, apples, whatever fruit you like, you can have that. Okay? So those are some of the sunnahs of fasting that are really important to keep in mind. Does anyone have any questions before we continue? Tafadhal.
I noticed you didn't mention milk at all.
Sorry?
You didn't mention milk at all for suhoor, but keep your fast.
Yeah, so milk falls under the category of something sweet. Yeah, you can have that. He asked about having milk for suhoor or iftar. You can have that. It falls under the category of something sweet. So it comes third in line after dates and water. Yeah. Any other questions? Right. So we covered how to have a sound fast. We covered some of the sunnahs of fasting. Okay. And now we are going to venture into the inward aspect of fasting, the spiritual aspect of it. That's between you and Allah Ta'ala. So now that we know what constitutes a sound fast, we know that if we have a fast, like what was described previously in the lessons, you've checked the box. Okay. You fasted for that day. Okay. Now, there are certain instances where someone can fast a complete fast. They've checked the box, but they get no reward for that fast. They get no reward for that fast. When does that happen? If someone does something, that the Prophet ﷺ warned against doing while you're fasting. If someone does something, the Prophet ﷺ warns against doing while you're fasting. For example, violence, like what the brother asked. If someone, walks around, oppressing people, hitting people, being angry and violent while they're fasting, this kind of person, their fast counts, but they've lost all reward for that fast. They've lost all reward for that fast. The Prophet says in hadith, he says that how many people fast and all they get for reward as their fast is just hunger and thirst. People fast and all they get as reward for their fast is being hungry and thirsty for that day. Nothing comes afterwards in the afterlife for them, because they did things while they were fasting that violate the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and voids their fast of all reward, such as being violent, such as backbiting, and sins of the tongue remove all reward from your fast. Backbiting is a really big one. Gossiping, spreading rumors about people, speaking, like being bad towards people in your speech, having poor character with them. All those things spoil your fast. In the modern age, unfortunately, it's really easy to slip into that. Because you can be alone, no one can be around you, and you could still be backbiting. You could still be gossiping. You could still be talking nasty to people through WhatsApp, through text, through Facebook, through social media or something. All these things that people used to have to be able to do in groups, people do alone now. Back in the day, if you wanted to, gossip about someone, you have to find someone to listen to, But nowadays, you just open up your phone, write a status message, and you send it, and you're done, and that's it. So all these things that happen nowadays on social media, most of it is just like, honestly, it's just chit chat that shouldn't be happening. People making fun of one another, or they rationalize it. They say, well, he's a celebrity, or he's an athlete or something. They still make fun of him, talking bad about people. All these things, they nullify the reward of the person fasting. They nullify the reward of the person fasting. Lying as well nullifies the reward of the fast. If someone's fasting for today and they lied, they don't get reward for that fast. So sins of the tongue are really important to watch because it's so easy to slip into it, especially today in the modern world. Another sin that's really easy to slip into is looking at something that's haram. Okay? So for example, someone, they see something they shouldn't be looking at on TV or on their phone, on YouTube. Sometimes it can just happen, like you're just at the cash register, there's magazines there, people poorly dressed. Looking at these things is haram, and looking at them, if your eye falls on it the first time by accident, you can avert your gaze. It's okay, it's not haram. But to look again, or to purposely look at it, that's haram, and it spoils your fast. It breaks your fast. And this is for a man and a woman. A lot of people think that, averting your gaze is just for men. That's not true. It's for women as well. It's for women as well. To avert your gaze from the opposite gender, and not look at things that are haram, looking at people who are poorly clothed, who are essentially naked, on magazine covers, on television, on commercials, YouTube, in real life, in front of you,
What if it happened in front of you unexpectedly?
Then it's okay. He asked, what if it happens in front of you unexpectedly? Like you're just walking on the street and someone just walks by and, they're half naked. Khalas, you just avert your gaze. The first time your eyes fall on them, it's excused. You just avert your gaze. Yeah. You avert your gaze. You look down or something. You look the other direction. In this world, I was in the UK before I came here. And you remember walking the streets, people are just half naked. It's freezing cold outside. Yeah. It's insane. People half naked, men and women, wearing, poorly dressed. And it was freezing outside. They dress like that for fashion, or to, attract the opposite gender, whatever it may be, But little do they know, it's haram. There's a big punishment waiting for people who dress like that in the next life. Allah protect us all. Okay, so these are some of the things that can spoil your fast and make it void of all reward. Okay, so in such a case, the person who fasted doesn't have to make it up, but they don't get reward for that day. Some scholars actually say that if someone fasted and did something like backbite or look at something haram, they have to make up that fast. But that's not the majority opinion. Most scholars say you don't have to make it up, but you lose the reward for that day. Okay? And so the spiritual aspect of fasting is basically trying to maximize the amount of reward you get for that fast. Okay? The minimum thing you have to do, is to make sure your fast meets the requirements set out by the scholars by making your intention, refraining from eating and drinking from sunup to sunrise, okay, refraining from intimacy, and making sure that you don't fall into the trap of these things mentioned by the scholars that can spoil your fast, spoil the reward of your fast, like backbiting, gossiping, spreading rumors, being bad to people, sinning in general spoils your fast as well, spoils the reward of your fast. And looking at haram things, especially in the modern age, is very difficult. But it's one of those things that if someone protects himself from it, they actually accrue reward for their fast. Imagine, someone fasting in the entire month of Ramadan. You don't eat, you don't drink 30 days out of the year, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, how many years pass and you're fasting these days? You come on the day of judgment and there's no reward for that. You come before Allah Ta'ala after the last day, after the world ends, we're all resurrected. We go before Allah Ta'ala and we're thinking in the back of our minds, we fasted 30, 40, 50, 60 years, whatever it may be. And you get in front of him and he opens the ledgers and you fasted, but you get no reward. Imagine that. Imagine, for example, going to work for no pay. It'll be heartbreaking. It would break your heart. Break everyone's heart. You go in front of Allah Ta'ala and all the trouble we put in for these fasts, there's no reward for it. So it's incredibly important for all of us during these blessed days of Ramadan to be really careful that we not only make sure our fast is sound according to the scholars of fiqh or jurisprudence, the legal scholars, but also making sure between ourselves and Allah Ta'ala, we're not cheating ourselves out of a fast, out of reward for this fast. And anyone who cheats themselves out of this reward, they're honestly oppressing themselves. You're oppressing yourself, Just like how you can oppress someone else by taking their money, being bad to them, hitting them, you can oppress yourself by cheating yourself out of the reward Allah Ta'ala has waiting for people who are pious and follow what He says. You oppress yourself out of that reward. You get to the last day, the last day with Allah Ta'ala, and you're going over everything you've done with Him. And you see other people who fasted with you, your family members, your friends, your community members, and they're getting reward and they're just flying. And then you look at yourself and all of your fasts are gone. All of your fasts are gone. So it's a fate that no one wants for themselves, and we wouldn't want it for anyone, not ourselves or our family members or community members or anyone else in this world. We all want everyone to fast an excellent fast that gives them reward in the next life and gives them also blessings and barakah in this life as well. تفضل.
A little off topic. What if you were living in Jahiliyyah? You were born Muslim. You slipped out of being you were bare minimum religious. Do you have to make up one day for one day that you missed, or?
He's asking if someone used to, for example, previously life not fast, and now they started practicing Islam. Do they have to make up their how do they have to make up their fast? Just make up the days you missed. Okay, make up the days you missed. If you have money as well, if you have that person has money as well to pay, like the fidya, the food for the poor people for every day they delayed making up. That's excellent, and there's a way to calculate it. But there are opinions of scholars where they don't have to pay that money; they just make up the fast. Okay, you just make up the fast. Okay. Tamam. Any other questions? Okay, so tomorrow, inshallah, we're going to go into more of the inner dimensions of fasting and talk about the different kinds of fasters, the different levels of people who fast. There are those who fast, like the lowest level of fasting, level 1 fasting. And there's level 2 fasting, which is, has more of a word to it. And there is the fasting of the people of God, which has the most reward in it. And we'll cover all these levels, inshallah, in the next class, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So we're going to end now and start word Latif, the adhkar that is read before Maghrib, that we usually recite, as well as istighfars afterwards, the tahaleel. So we're going to start those. Okay. Son?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون أفحسبتم أنما خلقناكم عبثا وأنكم إلينا لا ترجعون فتعالى الله الملك الحق لا إله إلا هو رب العرش الكريم ومن يدعو مع الله إلها آخر لا برهان له به فإنما حسابه عند ربه إنه لا يفلح الكافرون وقل رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين فسبحان الله حين تمسون وحين تصبحون وله الحمد في السماوات والأرض وعشيا وحين تظهرون يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي ويحيي الأرض بعد موتها وكذلك تخرجون. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. سلام على نوح في العالمين إنا كذلك نجزي المحسنين إنه من عبادنا المؤمنين. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات كلها من شر ما خلق. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. اللهم إني أمسيت منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتمم نعمتك علي وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إني أمسيت منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتمم نعمتك علي وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إني أمسيت منك في نعمة وعافية وستر فأتمم نعمتك علي وعافيتك وسترك في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إني أمسيت أشهدك وأشهد حملة عرشك وملائكة وجميع خلقك أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك وأن سيدنا محمدا عبدك ورسولك. اللهم إني أمسيت أشهدك وأشهد حملة عرشك وملائكة وجميع خلقك أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك وأن سيدنا محمدا عبدك ورسولك. اللهم إني أمسيت أشهدك وأشهد حملة عرشك وملائكة وجميع خلقك أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك وأن سيدنا محمدا عبدك ورسولك. اللهم إني أمسيت أشهدك وأشهد حملة عرشك وملائكتك وجميع خلقك أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك وأن سيدنا محمدا عبدك ورسولك. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيدا. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيدا. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيدا. آمنت بالله العظيم وكفرت بالجبت والطاغوت واستمسكت بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله السميع العليم. آمنت بالله العظيم وكفرت بالجبت والطاغوت واستمسكت بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله السميع العليم. آمنت بالله العظيم وكفرت بالجبت والطاغوت واستمسكت بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله السميع العليم. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبسيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم نبيا ورسولا. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبسيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم نبيا ورسولا. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبسيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم نبيا ورسولا. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. 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 اللهم إني أسألك من فجاءة الخير وأعوذ بك من فجاءة الشر. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت. أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت. أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت عليك توكلت وأنت رب العرش العظيم. ما شاء الله كان وما لم يشأ لم يكن ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير وأن الله قد أحاط بكل شيء علما. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من شر نفسي ومن شر كل دابة أنت آخذ بناصيتها إن ربي على صراط مستقيم. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك أستغيث ومن عذابك أستجير. أصلح لي شأني كله ولا تكلني إلا نفسي ولا إلى أحد من خلقك طرفة عين. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن وأعوذ بك من العجز والكسل وأعوذ بك من الجبن والبخل وأعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم إني أسألك العافية في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إني أسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في ديني ودنياي وأهلي ومالي. اللهم استر عوراتي وأمن روعاتي. اللهم احفظني من بين يدي ومن خلفي وعن يميني وعن شمالي ومن فوقي. أعوذ بعظمتك أن أغتال من تحتي. اللهم أنت خلقتني وأنت تهديني وأنت تطعمني وأنت تسقيني وأنت تميتني وأنت تحييني وأنت على كل شيء قدير. أمسينا على فطرة الإسلام وعلى كلمة الإخلاص وعلى دين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا مسلما وما كان من المشركين. اللهم بك أمسينا وبك أصبحنا وبك نحيا وبك نموت وعليك نتوكل وإليك المصير. أمسينا وأمسى الملك لله والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم إني أسألك خير هذه الليلة فتحها ونصرها ونورها وبركتها وهداها. اللهم إني أسألك خير هذه الليلة وخير ما فيها وخير ما قبلها وخير ما بعدها وأعوذ بك من شر هذه الليلة وشر ما فيها وشر ما قبلها وشر ما بعدها. اللهم ما أمس بي من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك فلك الحمد ولك الشكر على ذلك. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله العظيم وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله العظيم وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله العظيم وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله عدد ما خلق في السماء. سبحان الله عدد ما خلق في الأرض. سبحان الله عدد ما بين ذلك. سبحان الله عدد ما هو خالق. الحمد لله عدد ما خلق في السماء. الحمد لله عدد ما خلق في الأرض. الحمد لله عدد ما بين ذلك. الحمد لله عدد ما هو خالق. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما خلق في السماء. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما خلق في الأرض. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما بين ذلك. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما هو خالق. الله أكبر عدد ما خلق في السماء. الله أكبر عدد ما خلق في الأرض. الله أكبر عدد ما بين ذلك. الله أكبر عدد ما هو خالق. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما خلق في السماء. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما خلق في الأرض. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما بين ذلك. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما هو خالق. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله، صلاة وسلاما دائمين بدوام ملك الله، وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله، صلاة وسلاما دائمين بدوام ملك الله، وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله، صلاة وسلاما دائمين بدوام ملك الله، وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. فاتحة. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الحي القيوم الذي لا يموت وأتوب إليه رب اغفر لي. أستغفر الله للمؤمنين والمؤمنات 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 عدد خلقه رضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم.